The Portland Trail Blazers had a great bubble run to make it into the 8th seed of the playoffs, but they ultimately lost in 5 games to the Los Angeles Lakers in the first round. When healthy, the Blazers are a threat to make the Western Conference Finals, but not go much farther than that. What do they need to do to break through their ceiling and potentially take their team to a higher level while still building around Damian Lillard? Welcome back, everybody. It's Courtside TV, and today we're going to be talking about the Portland Trail Blazers. Damian Lillard has again proven himself to be underrated and underappreciated year after year after year. He is the reason that the Blazers are good, and he's the reason that they're where they are today. You know, this franchise, he's put them on his back for the last couple of seasons, taking them deeper into the playoffs, but ultimately they just haven't put the right pieces around him to be labeled a true contender. Like I mentioned, they kind of are a threat to make the Western Conference Finals, but really nobody considers them, a true contender beyond that. They've got a couple of other pieces, but Lillard is their star. He's a top 10 player in the NBA. You can argue top 7, top 8, whatever, but he's up there with the best of the best. He's the second best point guard in the league behind Steph Curry. He's one of the best shooters, one of the best playmakers, just a great scorer all around. So, Dame has got a lot of stuff going for him. He's getting a little bit older. He's, I believe, 29, almost 30. But he has stated time and time again how loyal he is to Portland. And if there was any star who I would bet to not place a trade request at any point, it's Damian Lillard. He's just loyal. That's the way he's built. He's going to remain in Portland as long as the Blazers want to have him. I won't rule out a trade at some point if the Blazers decide that they need to shake things up, from an ownership and GM standpoint. Maybe they would decide to move off of Lillard, but Lillard's never going to force his way out, and that's something that I really admire about him. He's very loyal to the city and to the fans, and he's going to keep, doing his thing as long as the Blazers will have him there. But they need to find a way to, really maximize him and build a team around him, and I'm not particularly sure that what they have right now is the correct way to do that. Which brings us to CJ McCollum. Now, CJ is a great, very talented scorer. He can score in a variety of ways. Good shooter, good driver, pretty good passer as well. But there's been a lot of questions in the past couple of years around whether it's, the best idea for the Blazers to have Dame and CJ together in that backcourt because both of them are so small and neither of them are great defenders. Playing CJ at the shooting guard position is a little bit weird just because of his size and his defensive capabilities. He's obviously a great scorer, and we've seen what he's done for the Blazers in these playoff runs. He's been very valuable for them, but maybe that salary and that asset could potentially be used at a different position in order to maximize Lillard a little bit more. They could use a more versatile do-it-all wing defender, somebody like that who can kind of take the pressure off Lillard to score all the time and be having to defend a lot. They could use potentially somebody who's a little bit bigger, more versatile, rather than just having all your scoring prowess in the backcourt. Maybe spread that out a little bit more positionally. We know that versatile wings are, kind of the marquee player in today's NBA. A lot of the best players are these long wings who can shoot, pass, defend, whatever. And so they need a guy like that. Every team needs a guy like that. But potentially there might be some sort of a swap for CJ McCollum that it would be wise for the Blazers to think about doing that. Over the past couple of years, it's been brought up a lot. I'm not really sure the player that's out there like that, but maybe it's just trading McCollum for somebody else who fits a little bit better, or even just trading him off for draft picks or something they could use to upgrade this roster in other ways. But to me, I just don't think that this pairing works if your goal is to win a title. If your goal is to make the playoffs every single year, they're certainly good enough to do that. They've proven that over the past 5 seasons. They're going to get into the playoffs with this team. But with Damian Lillard at 30 years old, pushing up more, it's going to be tough for them to really make a finals push with the team as currently constructed. And so on the roster right now, I think CJ McCollum is their best trade chip if they are looking to shake things up and change it and try to find a way to really maximize this roster around Lillard. And Yusef Nurkic rounds out their big three, and Nurkic really showed his value, especially during this playoff bubble run that they had. It was pretty clear that they missed him during the regular season when he didn't play, but when he came back for the bubble, he was a big help defensively, being able to score inside, giving them another option there, spreading out their offense, and honestly keeping Hassan Whiteside on the bench is also just as big of a bonus, because I'm not the biggest fan of Whiteside, but that's another issue. But Nurkic was certainly great for them this year, and he is on a manageable contract, a very fair contract for the amount of production that he brings. It's honestly a pretty steal. At $12 million a year for Nurkic for 2 more seasons, he will be, a very valuable piece on that contract. And I don't anticipate the Blazers to explore trading him just because he's on such a low number for the amount of production that he brings. He's only 26. He's a great fit next to Lillard. So if they are going to do a trade and shake things up, it would be McCollum first and then Nurkic. Nurkic is very good, and so he, is the type of player that they like to have. I think he fits well, and so that, if they're looking to maybe retool this roster around Lillard, I think he stays. If they're doing a supreme blow it up, basically selling off everybody except for Lillard, then maybe there's a trade out there for Nurkic this offseason, but I don't foresee that happening personally. I think he stays in Portland for the duration of this contract because he's very good on that number. So now we're looking at this cap sheet, and the Blazers actually have a couple of options on the roster in terms of trade pieces if they are looking to, maybe upgrade, cash in on that McCollum contract and turn that into a better player. They've got a ton of guys like specifically Anthony Simons, Nazir Little, Gary Trent, and Zach Collins, all on, still on their rookie deals, and all guys who certainly have a little bit of value to any team that was looking to obtain young talent. Collins has proven that he can play. Gary Trent had an awesome bubble run shooting the ball specifically. He was great. And then, Nazir Little is relatively unknown, but maybe he still has a little bit of something. And Anthony Simons has been known to have a decent bit of potential for a while now. And so those 4 guys are all potential throw-ins if they are looking to make a big splash, specifically using the McCollum contract. Now, I don't know if they'll do it this offseason. They have seemed committed to kind of keeping this CJ Dame pairing together, but that's always an option for them. And then even if it doesn't involve CJ, they have a couple of these other movable salaries, specifically Trevor Ariza, who didn't come to the bubble because he had, I think, personal matters, something with his child, spending time with one of his kids because he had custody, something like that. He didn't come to the bubble, so that's a potentially movable salary on around $13 million a year for the veteran. He probably doesn't have as much value as he has had over the past couple of years, where teams have been, throwing Ariza around looking to obtain that 3-and-D wing, but he's getting older. He's not as good as he used to be, and so, but maybe there is some team out there that would like to trade for Ariza, and if you could either sell that off for picks or potentially attach a younger player to Ariza to upgrade at that position, that would be something I would look into. And then Rodney Hood, you can scrape together salary to make up enough to trade for a player making a little bit more. Rodney Hood has that player option for about $6 million. I assume he'll take it coming off the Achilles injury. That could potentially be salary filler. Again, Zach Collins on his rookie deal, about $5.5 million. You can scrape together contracts. It probably wouldn't involve Nurkic like I mentioned before, but you could figure something out. And then looking at their free agents, it does kind of suck that Whiteside isn't expiring, not because they're going to lose him, because I don't expect them to re-sign Whiteside, but just because that contract was so big that it could have been potentially used to trade for a star-type player during the season. A lot of people had linked them to Kevin Love from the Cavaliers, didn't end up going down, and now I think they've kind of missed their window to trade for Kevin Love. If I was Portland, I probably would have done a Whiteside for Love swap at the deadline last year. I don't know if Cleveland was, open to the idea of that. If I was the Cavs, I would trade Kevin Love for whatever the heck you can get back if it's an expiring contract. Love for Whiteside straight up works for me. If you can get a pick or two, fine. But that option is gone now, unfortunately. And so if they are going to trade for Kevin Love, which has been rumored for a while, it would have to involve McCollum. I'm not sure if you can make up enough money with Nurkic, Ariza, Hood, Collins, potentially that would be enough, but again, that's giving up Nurkic, and I personally wouldn't do that for Kevin Love. I wouldn't give up CJ McCollum for Kevin Love at his age now. So I think they've missed their window, unfortunately, on that. But maybe there's another star out there. Just a name that comes to mind, potentially Victor Oladipo would be a nice fit here as a 3-and-D type of player, even though that kind of fits into their guard rotation even more. He could maybe play small forward. Or if you were trading McCollum for him, even though Oladipo's on an expiring deal, maybe that frees them up to have some potential salary cap space in the following offseason. So maybe if the Pacers were interested, I would look into a Victor Oladipo trade. But yeah, Whiteside's expiring. Carmelo Anthony, who played well, he showed that he can still play. Going on age 37 now, he's only going to go down from here. But I think his skill set is still there. He still has those skills that he had as a superstar in the NBA. He's a little bit older, but I think he's a good fit there. He played well, and in his role, averaging 14, 15 points a game, something like that. He knew his role this year. He played well, so I think they should bring back Carmelo Anthony if they are looking to contend again next year, and I think they will. Caleb Swanee, and they don't care. Winnie Gabriel actually got a couple of playoff minutes, but I believe he'll be restricted at that minimum salary at age 23, so maybe a new deal for Winnie Gabriel. Jalen Adams doesn't really matter either. And so they don't really have too many big free agents this offseason. I don't think they'll worry too much about Whiteside. And so really this offseason it comes down to the Blazers seeing if they can find a potential upgrade over McCollum, maybe in a different position to play next to Lillard. But maybe they don't even pull the trigger on that because they haven't over the past couple of years. They've just kind of stood pat with this two-guard lineup. And, it's worked to get them into the playoffs and maybe win a round or two. But I'm not sure what the ceiling is beyond that. And so if I was Portland, I would consider moving McCollum for a different piece. I would understand if they don't, just because there hasn't been a precedent for it. And so that's something that concerns me going into the offseason is just whether or not they're going to use McCollum as a trade chip. Now that I'm thinking about it more, I really do actually kind of like the Oladipo option. Even though he does become a free agent, they would potentially open up a little bit of cap space for the summer of 2021. Maybe there's a star that wants to come play with Lillard, so that's an option potentially there. So I think that pretty much covers it. The Blazers have options to upgrade this team. I don't know if they'll take the out of CJ McCollum, turning him into another asset or picks or whatever. But they certainly have options. They've got these young players that they could use as assets. I believe they still have all their draft picks. And so they should be able to potentially find some upgrades for this team. I think the most likely option is probably just moves around the margins. Potentially a Trevor Ariza deal, maybe using the Rodney Hood salary to do something. And if you want to try to upgrade out of those four rookies that I mentioned, I think Nazir, or not rookies, but young players, I think Nazir Little is probably the most likely to be traded just because we don't really know how much value he has. Simon still has a lot of potential. Gary Trent, played well. We're not sure what his ceiling is. His ceiling is probably about what he's doing right now. But he's just a good shooter and just a good, rotation guard. And then Zach Collins is also somebody who is a little bit, we're not sure on his value, but he, I think, fits better positionally with Portland, and his salary is a little bit bigger. So maybe as a throw-in is your Little attached to somebody like Trevor Ariza in order to upgrade this roster might be a possibility, but just looking for those 3D wings, guys who can fill out their starting rotation, because if they're not trading CJ, they have 3 of their 5 starters locked in for sure. It's going to be Lillard, McCollum, and Nurkic at center. And then beyond that, we're not really sure what the core is of this team. And so they have options to upgrade it. I don't know if they'll take them. But that's pretty much my thoughts on the Portland Trailblazers. So that's going to be it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll be back within the next couple days with a new video, potentially talking about, one of the teams in a similar situation as Portland who was eliminated earlier in the playoffs. We're just going to kind of go with that until the conference finals is over and we can talk about whoever loses those series. So that's going to be it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.